Welcome back to another edition of Everything Football 62. I'm your old John, the Big Tex Johnson, aka Uncle Tex, aka Professor Tex. Before we start up, subscribe to the page. Give me hit a brother with the like. Like I said, subscribe to the page, hit a brother with a like, share any comments, suggestions, anything like that. Leave them down there. So I'm gonna go over week 5. Would have did it last night, but because that's normally when I try to do it on Tuesdays, but life happens. That's just one of those things. So we'll get it out the way before we do this, and then we'll see whatever pick that I'm gonna have for this Thursday night game coming up. I've already talked about the Colts Broncos game. I talked about that last week, basically with the whole Russell Wilson situation. Have some poor football being played. Saw that the Colts actually won that game. Again, not a lot of scrutiny from Matt Ryan, who hasn't played very well in the last 3 or 4 years, but I've already spoken about that. The Giants and the Packers, that game over there in London. Uh, Daniel Jones looked decent. He didn't get that game away. Packers actually gave that game away. If you go ahead on and run Jones and Dillon, the game's over with. The cohesiveness coming with the wide receivers, that's going to take some time. And it was funny because Giants is dealing with the same thing. The only difference is that their receivers basically got it, and Green Bay receivers didn't get it. But running game ended up kind of being somewhat of the difference, and the Packers completely gotten away from that. If we go real quick here, if we go to the stats real quick, you take a quick gander here with the stats and whatnot. Real quick, you got in the pack, and Jones 63 yards, Dillon at 34 yards. They could have continuously kept running the ball. That's just something they decided not to do. They were running the ball very well against the Giants, and then they just stopped. They just could have milked the clock because the Packers is not playing that explosive ball that you used to with an Aaron Rodgers-led team. Receiver issue. You lose somebody like Adams, that's a major blow, and you got to deal with that. That's just what it was. And Daniel Jones didn't make the last minute mistakes and whatnot and everything like that. And Saquon Barkley still continued to play very good ball, and that got him to where they got him. They got him a big W. That's a big W. I think they 4-1 now. So kudos to them. Steelers and Bills, trifling, extremely trifling. Josh Allen went back to looking like Josh Allen was looking like the first 2 weeks of the season. The last 2 weeks, I already told y'all about that, wasn't looking that great. He did his thing, long touchdown passes, threw for over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, or something like that. Steelers have issues at quarterback. Steelers have issues on defense. They miss T.J. Watt. Say whatever you say, and that secondary is getting torched. Browns and the Chargers, again, Eckler, great game. I think rushed for 174 yards, accounted for 2 touchdowns. Hebert was pedestrian and whatnot. I think 1 touchdown, 1 pick, I believe, or something like that. The Browns, like I said, they trying to hold on until Watson get there. We'll see what ends up happening with that. Even though my man at the quarterback position for the Browns, Jacoby Brissett, I believe he had a decent game or whatever, but Nick Chubb is running the ball. That's the guy. Quarterbacks don't have to do all that when you have running games like these guys have and whatnot. And that's the thing. You don't have to do certain things pretty consistent. But the Browns defense is taking a shellacking, and they got, like I said, man, Eckler almost went for 2 bills on these jokers. So only 16 carries. Just think if he'd have carried the ball 25 times, they probably would have had easily 230 yards rushing. Jaguars and Texans. Just when you think the Jaguars are going to do this, that, and the other, they let the Texans go ahead and snap them up and beat them. There's still things that you got to deal with on that team over there, being consistent. But again, still early. Bears and the Vikings. Kirk Cousins ended up going for it on the 4th down, I believe, with a minute and some odd seconds left, and made it and end up eventually with Cousins driving him down there. That's something that if he's able to do that, they can go far. That's the thing, that it factor. When the game is on the line, he has a tendency, he'll do something like that, but see what happens when it comes to a big game next week when the games really count, and that's where he falters at. The Bears, yeah, I mean, they hung in there, played around, they're 2-3. Fields trying to get it together and stuff like that. They got a decent running game. Their defense just has to step up. Chicago's always kind of known for having a decent defense, and unfortunately, like I said, they ended up getting not making the stops when they needed to make the stops. Uh, 29-0 for the Patriots and Lions. It was like some unknown guy I don't know had a big 160 some odd yards. I don't know what the guy's name is. Let me take a real quick look at remember the guy's name. But Detroit, went back to being what Detroit normally looks like. Here's what it is. The Patriots. Let me see what this guy's name is. Stevenson, Ramondre Stevenson, 25 carries, 161 yards. Bailey Zappi, 17 to 21, 188 yards, a touchdown, a pick, filling in for Mac Jones and whatnot, and they got the W there. And some of the more better uniforms that the Patriots' best uniforms, period. End of story. Ain't no ifs, no ands, no buts about that. Seahawks and Saints. Taysom Hill accounted for 4 touchdowns. He ran for 3, threw for 1, had a 23, 24-yard kick return, and recovered a fumble that actually led to, I think, an 8, and actually later on lead to an 8-yard one of his touchdowns. That's a football player move, did really good. Red Rifle was so pretty good or whatever like that. Alvin Kamara came up out of his shell and whatnot. Ended up having 100 yards rushing and almost 100 yards receiving. So that's the first time that we ever that first time really for him doing his thing. I think one of the ironies about Alvin Kamara, and I've oftentimes said what type of back he's supposed to be. That he'll do something like this, and then you might not even hear anything major from him for the next 3 or 4 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. But this guy's already a 5-time Pro Bowl. So he's the funny part about that. He's made the Pro Bowl as much as somebody like Thurman Thomas has made the Pro Bowl for his whole 11, 12, 13-year career. But nobody up until this guy does something the next 5 or 6 yards remarkable. You ain't gonna never tell me he's a better back at this stage in the career than Thurman Thomas was. Never. Not Noah Marshall fault. Never. Like I said, still hasn't rushed for 1,000 yards since he's been in the league. And he's been in the league since 2016, 2017. Jets and Dolphins, not a lot going on there. Big plays. Jets running the ball well, playing good defense and whatnot. Dolphins down to the quarterback. They're down to the third string quarterback. That's all I can say about that. Down to the third string quarterback. The Jets is flying around playing some ball. Some like the best they basically look since that coach's tenure, even for 5 weeks. See how long that lasts. But look like it's some decent things over there. But they might be hot. They might be time for a little success over there. Buccaneers and Falcons. Brady threw the ball 52 times or whatever like that. Falcons was hanging in there, and then we get to one of the more controversial plays that's been coming out about this roughing the passer rule. It's like that wasn't a roughing the passer. I mean, what do you do with these guys? What do you want them to do? You can't. I've been around football long enough and watched enough football over the past 40-some years how you could just kill a quarterback. These guys are slinging this guy down. They're being extremely easy on Brady. Why you think Brady's playing the years he played? Because you can get away with it because you can barely sneeze on a quarterback and they're throwing flags. That can cost you the game. That play would have gave them the ball back. It's fourth. It takes them out of field goal range and whatnot. Possibly get the ball back and possibly end up beating the Buccaneers. But hey, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Bad call though. Commanders and Titans, 21-17. Talk about your quarterback getting thrown under the bus. Derrick Henry does what he does. When he can do that, and they play some defense, the quarterback doesn't have to do nothing magical and whatnot, and they'll win games like this. Commanders throw the ball down there. What did Wentz do? Threw that awful pick there in the end zone, and later on, game's over with. Basically, everybody in the NFC East has a quarterback. They say, basically, we don't have a quarterback. He threw him under the bus. That's just what it was. It was a bad pick. He was not having a bad game and anything like that. Talking about Wentz, but like I said, my man can't. He can't. Everything with this guy, man. I'm telling you, man, it's all psychological at this point, and that didn't help matters out none at all for this guy. Wentz was 25. I mean, he was 25 for 38, 359 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that costly pick at the end. That'll mess you up, man. And all of that, what he did, all those yards and whatnot, don't mean a thing if you don't come out with that W. It means absolutely nothing. We scroll on here. We get down to the what's that? Yeah, get down to the it's a dang on thing sliding all the way down there. The 49ers and the Panthers. I mean, 49ers is doing what they're doing. They're running the ball well. They're playing tough defense and whatnot. Carolina just ain't got it. Say what you want about Jimmy G. I've said things about Jimmy G, but he always puts himself in a position to be a winning quarterback. He's a solid quarterback, but he's another one of those guys when tough gets kind of going. He's mistake prone and whatnot, but he's hanging. The main thing what he's doing is he's hanging tough and whatnot. Niners, he's 3-2 at this particular point in time. And hey, like I said, doing the different things that he needs to do to stay alive. And in the end, do this about getting. And these teams are running. They're running the football good. Some of these teams that you see what's going on, these guys are running the ball good. And that's what it's all about, man. Jimmy G, 18 for 30, 253, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, Jeff Wilson ran the ball 17 catches, 120 yards and a touchdown. These are the types of things that's going on to where it's like, hey, man, your mojo ain't really working a lot there on offense as far as throwing the football. If you got a running game, you go in there and your defense plays solid, you can still win. Instead of, popular opinion is you got to throw the ball 50 times, 40 some odd times a game. You don't have to do that. Yeah, that looks nice and good and stuff like that. But, man, when it gets right down to it, man, it's about getting that W. If you can run the ball and play defense, you can still win in this league. You always can win in this league. Eagles and the Cardinals, a couple of costly mistakes by Kyler Murray in this game. Again, guys are doing pretty decent. Like I said, nothing all that greatly high scoring that much. You have a part where, like I said, you got like Jalen Hurts was 26 for 36, 239 yards, no touchdowns, but also more important, no picks. Ran for 61 yards and had 2 touchdowns. Okay. And they, like I said, they ran the ball pretty good. Miles Sanders, 15 carries, 58 yards. Cardinals, on the other hand, with Kyler Murray, 28 42, 251, touchdown, 1 pick, 4 catches, 42 yards. Slid a little early. We should have got the first down. I heard even before that play, he missed the guy that was basically wide open, and a little bit of clock management. It's something they got to clean up if they want to try to try to do better and whatnot. They're in the games and everything like that, but they got they're kind of right now far contrast from where they was last year at this time. But they can still probably get it together because it's still early. But again, like I say, you very seldom see Kyler make those particular type of overthrows or not making, because when I saw the slot, I said, damn, he slid a little early and he could have, and he just misjudged it and whatnot. And that was the mistake. And then possibly winning the game, or at the very least, of winning the game, because that's something that they, winning or tying the game, because he can drive that ball down the field. That Cowboys and Rams, not a lot of stats going on there, but they ran the ball well and played a hell of a defense, even though Dallas needed to do pretty well when they started getting better and Diggs him out there in that secondary, because Cooper Kupp ate them cats up, ate them up. But Matthew Stafford, it's funny. I didn't hear a lot of shit about Matthew Stafford. He turned the ball over twice. He fumbled the ball. He fumbled the ball twice. He lost it twice and whatnot. So when you take a look at what he did, and, like I said, guys throwing the ball 100 times, throwing a damn ball, I don't know how many times a game, but that's what's going on. And so with him, this joke here, 28 for 42, 308. So he accounted for 3 turnovers. But I don't see him getting lynched. And he's reigning Super Bowl champ. But it's been quiet as a field mice out there. Crickets. Now you don't even hear crickets when it came to him in this performance. You know what I'm saying? But, again, what that's all about. So I'll leave it at that, he had the Eagles and not the Eagles, I'm sorry, the Ravens and the Bengals. Here we go with these guys. It's like Ravens defense actually showed up at a time they need to show up, because Bengals are one of the more explosive teams out there. And the Bengals, Yeah, man. Let's take a look at these stats real quick. So we go over here and we'll see what Joe Burrow, who they've been trying to anoint since he's came into the league and whatnot. Burrow 24 for 35, 217, one touchdown, one pick, uh, and everything. Yeah, and and then I think the guys is on him pretty well. Pass rush sacked him a couple of so times, I believe, and whatnot. Lamar Jackson, 19 for 32, 174 yards. He also rushed for 58 yards, counted for a touchdown, and they just played that kind of football because in the end, Baltimore can run the ball. That is their forte. That is their forte. And these are things that could definitely go down and happen with them. But like I say, so these guys, like I said, again, man, hey, man, it's one of those things where, and their kicker, and then their kicker going to do what their kicker, Tucker's going to do what Tucker does. 4 for 4, long as it's 58, they win the game. It is what it is. That's just that's just what it's about and whatnot. So, Baltimore keep it close. They can win. They can win game again. They can win They can win that North, AFC North, like they do every year. Like I said, at this particular point, we know what they can do. We just talk about representing in the playoffs. Uh, Very exciting game. When we get to that of the Raiders and Chiefs, up by 17. You're supposed to close it out. You got to close it out. You got to close it out. If you don't close it out, you got the Reaper. You got the Grim Reaper, man. And he took that Hawk with 4 touchdowns, all of them to Kelsey. Kelsey had like 25 yards of receiving yards on about 5 catches, and all his 4 catches was like all touchdowns. I mean, and all that. And again, they probably could have been up even more, but of course, how they did Jones and they call that roughing the passer, and I'm like, it's ridiculous. And now they're pissed off and mad because Troy Aikman said what he said, which goes back to what Jack Lambert said years ago. And of course, in today's wokeness, as they call it, you don't supposed to say that. Josh Jacobs, hell of a game. Career highs and stuff. Chiefs got to clean that up. Chiefs got to clean that up. They got to clean that up because they were getting handled at the line of scrimmage. And that front 7 was getting handled. They were getting handled. And they was getting handled in that secondary. So you know what I'm saying? They made particular stops whenever stops needed to be made, but they have to clean that up. They have to clean that up. I know the way the offense is, it leans to them and stuff, but that has to be cleaned up. I mean, Mahomes can do this and do that. And then, like I said, it's somewhat, Chiefs ran them out. They run the ball. Not that great. It was decent, but could have been a little bit better. But their offense, as long as Mahomes back there playing offense, that doesn't. I mean, they're always going to be in the game. Their defense did what their defense needed to have done. But that fourth down play and whatever they had, and say, I don't know how Renfro and Adams got up in the same thing and basically ended up knocking each other out of the way because really that was a throw up to try to get to get a PI because that's what these guys do nowadays and whatnot. And they end up running into each other, and then it end up running into each other. It messed everything up. They was in the same vicinity. And those receivers are supposed to be in the same vicinity like that shit unless you're doing a Hail Mary in the damn end zone. But they running the pattern, so somebody wasn't supposed to be where they were supposed to be at. And Chiefs come and take it over, 17 down and whatnot. So hey, like I say, man, it is what it is. My player of the week of this time, because I only pick one player or whatever. I really don't do defense and all that stuff like that every now and then. But if somebody's really done something, but it's Taysom Hill, man. Hell of a game. Like I said, 4 touchdowns, 3 rushing, 1 passing, rushed for over 100 yards and whatnot. Had a nice little kick return, fumble, but he recovered his own fumble. But the thing that puts it over the top, why I edged him out over Eckler, was the fact that he basically, because he played special teams, he recovered a fumble. He recovers a fumble, and a couple of plays later, he takes it in. He set up for his own touchdown. I thought that was pretty cool and whatnot. Which, on a note, this is something that I say Taysom Hill, no matter how his career goes, and now, granted, he's not your quarterback. It's going to be Rev Rifle, either Winston or whatever. So you ain't going to win with him playing quarterback. But the play that you have him playing, That's what he can do for you. And he's something. He's a straight up football player. That's what he is. And he can be a legend there in New Orleans. And as long as he keeps his time there and everything like that, he'll be a legend in New Orleans. And I always go back to what I said about Tim Tebow. If Tim Tebow ego wasn't so big, that's what Tim Tebow could. That's the mark that he could have left in the league. So Tyson is already becoming a legend in New Orleans for the plays that he's been doing the last 2 or 3 years, especially the last couple of so years and whatnot. And he'll be a fan favorite when his beard is gray and everything, like when he's in his damn 50s and stuff, and come back and his his money will be no good. He never have to buy. He won't have to buy a drink. Somebody like Tebow's become a footnote, whether people want to agree with that or not, and whatnot. Hey man, like I tell you guys all the time, man. Like I said, there is no GOAT, there's no greatest of all time as long as time is still going on. And numbers don't lie and get emotional, people do. And, on another note and whatnot, we saw what happened with Devontae Adams, and the guy got in his way. And the frustration is going on with the young man right now. It is what it is, man. Like I said, Josh McDaniels ran team. We'll see what happens with all this whole situation. But like I said over and over again, man, it's like, it's like a lot is expected from these guys. And they moved the ball. They ran the ball great. They just did not make the plays that needed to have been made to make. Mistakes were made. And that's the difference between winning and losing and whatnot. And that's definitely what's going on there, man. They say this guy's supposed to be pressing charges up against him and stuff like that. Those are things that he can't allow that stuff like that to happen. He's going to have to come out of pocket. Now, in today's society, I wouldn't doubt if dude did that shit on purpose, but that's just me. But people do anything to get on television or to make a quick buck. You know what I'm saying? Because he saw him coming. He could have waited till that dude passed by. He knew dude was tight. Knew he was pissed. And he gonna go run in front of him just for the hell of it. I said, because you're seeing people do stupid shit on YouTube all the time just to get likes and clicks and stuff like that. I say, so guys got to be very mindful of what's going on. People are out here doing stuff, just trying to get you to get a reaction out of you, to get clicks. But in a situation like this, he might have just earned himself 50 grand. Who knows? So tell them guys they got to be mindful of that type of stuff, man, and what's going on with them and stuff. So like I say, man, these guys, get it together, man. And like I say, man, I said it before, numbers don't lie and get emotional, people do. And there's no GOAT, there's no greatest of all time as long as time's still going on. You guys have a good one.